How you do that? My name is Ronald Seaman. Welcome to my podcast. Now, I've been thinking to myself and looking back into history and remembering the only sources of information that someone would get to enrich themselves was radio, encyclopedias, maybe walking to the library to read about something and learn about something, teach yourself about something, and then maybe research and a couple of things. But hey, the world has evolved, and here we are today. We are also having the internet. Now, the internet has myriads and myriads of content that you could get, good and bad. And today, we happen to be seated here, and a couple of you are going to be asking yourselves, so what is entailed into this podcast? Of all the podcasts that are here, why do we even have to sit here? Why do we even have to feel like we have to be anchored here? What is going to be anchoring us down here? Now, we all come from a society, actually world over, we come from a society that is just changing, but in the days of old, you found that a good child is one who keeps quiet and does not ask so many questions. That is if you came from a reasonably liberal family. But if you came from a family that was dictator kind of thing, they will tell you a good child is the one who keeps quiet and never asks any question. And so here we are. When I was sitting down with my team, they asked me, so what is going to be into your podcast? What would you like to put out there? And I said, I want to challenge status quo. I want to look on the other side of the coin. I want to find out what makes the color gray. I want to find the black and white that makes the color gray. And they were like, that's really good. So the gentleman that asked me these questions, one of them is my associate producer, Mr. Mbabali Reagan, and my producer, Job Mutiaba. So Job actually threw it back at me and said, so what is going to be the name of your podcast? And I said it's going to be called, actually he suggested and said, Flip Side. And I've been doing a couple of thinking, and there's no any other name that would pass for this. So ladies and gentlemen, I officially unveil to you On the Flip Side. And today on the flip side, what are we going to be talking about? Really contentious issue that affects either you, your grandfather, maybe your neighbor, but everyone is affected by this, and it's called parenting. You want to hear this? We are going to be unveiling this and more. We're going to be hearing more of this when I return after this good cup of coffee. Good evening. Welcome back, folks, and we back to On the Flip Side. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you just joined me and in case you just stumbled onto this is On the Flip Side, the time we get to challenge status quo, the time we get to question those questions. Who said? Why were they said? What was the fundamental reason why those things were said in life, in society? Why do we call things tradition? Why were they made tradition? What was the reason that those things were made? So here on the flip side, we get to find out why and how and since when. On the flip side only. My name is Ronald Seaman. Thank you for joining me. And when I left off, we were talking about parenting. Yeah, I left it as a hot potato and I'm back at it. Maybe we try to decipher it together and find out how contentious it is, how intricate is it, how complicated it is to be a parent. I mean, yeah, so being a parent, and we are trying to understand it and what entails parenting. What is parenting? And according to me, being parented by a soldier who was seldom around, but the time he was around, man, it really counted. And then also being raised by, co-raised by a mother who was a journalist, who was most of the time, I should say, around, but there were also times when she was not around. So you can imagine these are really strict people, practicing strict fields where deadlines, timelines are really, really, really timely, and you never fail. So these people raised us, and I'm glad for who I am. And we're here to question, what is the difference between parenting and providing? Because there's a very, very fine line between parenting and providing. And today, if you get to realize, we have many parents who are really, really great providers, buying air tickets to send their children to Disney World, buying them the latest video games, Xboxes, paying all the school dues, basically providing. But if you ask yourself, or if you go down and take a look and ask, actually understand the child that all these things are being done for, you realize that this child is provided for. That is not parented at all. And we're finding out, what does it take to parent a child? And the first thing is being around. Where I come from, you find that parenting, being around has really, really been damaged so much that kindergarten children, school buses hoot as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, and these children have to go to school. I keep asking myself, what are these kindergarten folks going to be learning from 5 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the evening? Seriously, what is going on? Who monitors this? Who oversees our learning system in our ministries of education? What are these people still learning? But you find that parents don't even care, because the little time that maybe you would have spent around and utilized it to be a parent, sit at the dining table as they're having their tea, having their breakfast cereal before they go to school and before you also go to work. Maybe you teach them a couple of things, a couple of character, some character, like not slapping your food when you're eating it, like holding your fork and how you fasten your tie. But all these things can only be fixed when you are around. But if the bus is hooting at 5 o'clock, which means you woke up maybe at 3, what time did you go to sleep? What time did you return from work? So parents are not around. Parents are not around, which is going to be affecting our children or the next generation badly and severely. Second thing, we are looking at character. Today you find people who have no character. They can do anything. They're so uncouth. They're weird. They do all the things and you just like raise an eyebrow and say, really? He did it? Oh yeah, he did it. But because these children have not been taught character, they just do things for the sake of doing them. Others not do things and you ask them, why don't you do this? I just don't want to do it. What reason? I just don't want to do this. Okay, why are you doing it? I'm just doing it. So there's no reason why they do something and there's no reason why they do not do something. Now that is a really dangerous person. They have no character. They can do anything, anytime, whatsoever, absolutely. But if you're around, you're going to see a bad character and you will uproot it while it's not yet rigid or severe or festered badly. That is 2. 3, principles. Today you find someone who just gets up and just does something. They have no sieve. They have no strainer. They just do something. And you ask yourself, do you even have principles? You find a woman or a man being mistreated by their husband or wife. And you ask yourself, okay, I understand you have to be a good husband or you have to be a good wife. You have to listen to your wife. And you, woman, you have to be submissive to your husband. But do you even have principles? Do you even have a principle that says, I think this is the threshold and I'm not going to be going any more of that. I'm not going to be doing that job. Not because it does not pay well. It pays so well, but it goes against my principles. Do we have those people? We do not have them because there's no parent around to teach them principle. You can imagine. So what sort of human beings are we sending to the next generation? And then number 4, reasoning. A friend of mine was asking me why. I was actually asking my friend, why did you break up with your boyfriend? And she told me, this guy is not really my kind, my type. I said, why? I mean, he's a cool guy. He says, his reasoning is a little bit slow. He's slow. I was like, okay, wow. Say certain things I was not doing, and he kept on going at me, asking why you're not doing these things. And I asked him, do you know why I'm not doing these things anymore? And he just could not understand. He just could not configure why I am not doing these things anymore, but he could just not bring himself to it. So all that comes to reasoning. All that comes to reasoning. Why is A? Why is B? They say, I remember when we were growing up, we used to ask ourselves, an African American is an American who lives in America or has had both parents, is an African American or has lived in America. But there are also Africans that have lived in Europe. Why are they never called African Europeans? It is a small contentious thing, but you can imagine a child at that age was reasoning. So how many parents are there to boost that reasoning, to encourage that reasoning, so that in the future, these people are not going to be taken for rights. These people are not going to be frauded, for lack of a better word. Sorry about that. Someone is trying to ring me. So all these things. So these are the things that are into parenting. And do you think your child possesses these things? Do you think you are a proud parent and you hold yourself with high esteem and say, my child is rich in these things? Let's see what a parent has to say. I met a parent on the street.
It is stressful because you want to be there for your child, and then you're thinking, how will my child see me if I don't come back with a kavera? If I don't come back with something, if I don't come back with bread? And so you find yourself, you're away just to meet the provision. And then you miss out on the kids' lives. You miss out on them growing up. You miss out on things, on the fundamental things that you should be impacting in them, where they need to see their father treat how the father treats their mother, because in no time they will be adults, and they will be having women in their lives, and they will be having girlfriends, and they do not know how their father was treating their mother. They do not know how their father was handling conflicts at home or something, because every time the father comes, he finds them sleeping. And then he leaves early in the morning, and yet maybe they're also still sleeping. And so they get to see their father maybe over the weekend or once in a while when the father comes in early. And there is a lot of disconnection there. If it's a boy, he's not seeing the man aspects that he should be seeing from his father, because they learn from us. These kids watch what we do.
You can hear for yourself how a parent is actually fumbling to meet a balance between providing and parenting. You just heard him. He's fumbling very hard. He's trying to understand. He sees the benefits of parenting, but I mean, he's also saying, but how am I going to be able to parent when I have to provide? But I believe the reason why I talked about my parents is, I mean, they also had really this big, quite decision they had to make, but they balanced it, looking at how demanding their jobs and how daring the jobs were. So I think we have also to prioritize in the things that we're doing as far as parenting is concerned. So I always love using using the content that I listen to, the movies, to help like when I'm speaking to people to encourage people, because there's a lot of advice into that content. Though sometimes some people just think it's just entertainment and you're just supposed to just watch it and then go to sleep, and then it helps you when you're feeling bored and everything. But my friend, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of teaching that you can get from that content. And in this particular one, I always, especially when I'm talking about parenting, I would love to refer to Asha's song, the Nigerian artist, world music artist. And she says, tell me who's responsible for what we teach our children. Is it the internet or stars on television? My friend, it's not the stars on television. It's not Justin Bieber. It's not whoever. It is you. It's not the matron at school. It's not the house help. It's not the internet. I remember there was a certain time when a pop artist was one time castigated by a first lady and said she wears inappropriately, she sings gross language and everything. And I remember her responding, with all due respect, she said, I'm not a babysitter, I'm an entertainer. Indirectly sending parents to go and do their job, which is parenting. If a parent was around, they would have made sure that this content, or even the first lady would have not gone after her, because she would have known that there is parental guidance, there is parental locking, and it's not going to be leaking to the eyes and ears of the people that it's not meant for. But because parents are absent, they're not around. And this brings me actually directly to a complicated issue that's been going and making rounds on social media about this single mother. I don't know if she's a single, but she must be a single mother, who is a peacekeeping force in South Sudan, in Somalia, and she left her daughter with a relative to take care of. She left all the support that is needed. Her ATM card was left behind so that in case anything is needed, they can withdraw as much as they need. And she comes back, to her amazement, finding her child being badly mistreated, physically injured, and admitted in hospital. Now, when I was speaking to a couple of my friends in that office, they kept thinking that I'm not sympathetic. But I clearly said, guys, I have a parent who was a soldier, who was traveling. You and I understand how these people move. And then I had a mother who was a journalist. These people made strong sacrifices, taking care of 4 children. And I remember one time when mom realized she was away and realized that her job was taking away or was encroaching or jeopardizing her role as a parent, she quit and decided to make a little less money but make sure that she parents. Now, same thing. You cannot eat your cake and have it. You're either going to choose. You make less money and be a better parent, or be a worse absent parent and make the money. And that's when your child is going to end up in things like rehabilitation, because they got into drugs. You were not around to see the behavior was changing. That's the time you're going to find children being impulsive. You ask yourself, why are they impulsive? Why do they have temper issues? Why are they temperamental? You're not around. You never saw this coming. Why can't they just listen? They were never taught how to listen. There was no one to instill that into them. Remember, children are a book, and you write into them what you want the world to read out of them. And if you do not write it there, then it won't be there. So you can see how bad the repercussions, and before you get to realize that, as they grow up, they end up being bad husbands and wives, making broken homes. And as far as that goes, they end up being characterless people in society. They become leaders, they're corrupt, they're heartless, they're selfish, they're despotic. The list is endless. Oh my friend, just be parents. I understand it's hard to strike that balance, but hey, you better find it. No one sent you to go and have these children. So look at what you're sending to this generation or to the next generation and see what you have to do. Because you cannot just have your cake and eat it. I'll be right back. You're listening to The Flip Side. It's On the Flip Side that you're listening to, hosted by yours truly, Ronald Seaman, and I hope it's been a fun ride. It's been bumpy, especially to the brains of parents. I'm very certain if a parent is out there listening, they're saying, okay, this is a hot chili that I'm supposed to be chewing on. Yes, you're supposed to chew it on because it's your obligation. And because of good parenting, I remember very well, there's a day, it was a jovial day. We had a good day. We stayed at home and played with my siblings, and after that, our parents came back. These were one of the days when mom would coincidentally be around and dad is around, and yeah, and then dad came back, and then when they would come back, we would go flood their bedroom and ask questions, disturb. We thought we were just being human beings. We thought we had the right. Yeah, disturb, ask this question, tamper with this, mess up with this, and then I remember there was a time when, and that's the time I remember very well. I took this after my father. I am a watch collector. I collect watches, and then if I remember, my dad too used to collect watches. So one of his watches, I remember the brand was called Olmex, and it got faulty, and then he gave it to mom and said, could you please help me take my watch to the hologist and help me, let him fix it for me. And then mom takes the watch, and unfortunately they tried to fix the watch and it could not be revived, and then mom brought it back, and then he gave it back to dad and he said it cannot be fixed. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, missed it. This time is up. And after that, I was like, hey, dad, can I have the watch? And he said, what? Do you know it is faulty, it is broken? I said, yeah, but I can have it. He said, come here, come here. I remember sitting next to him. He didn't have his shirt on. It was quite a warm evening, and he was having a cup of tea. And mom was doing something around the room, and then he said, here is something. I want you to learn principles. Having a broken watch calls for a man to lie, and you do not have to lie unnecessarily. If you're a man, you have to understand not to lie. Have this principle. Find ways of how you cannot lie. If there's no way, find a notion, but do not lie. Lying is not a good thing. I said, but dad, I just asked for a watch. I didn't lie about anything. He said, when you wear a broken watch, you're going to lie in either 2 or 3 ways. Either you're going to tell the wrong time, or you're going to say, my watch is a little bit faulty, but hey, you got this watch onto your wrist from home knowing this watch is faulty, and you're telling someone on the street that it just got faulty without you knowing. But you knew it when you came. So you have lied. In either one way or the other, you're going to lie. Oh, you might choose to be rude and say, and just not tell someone about the time. But is that really a good thing? It's not really a good thing. So he told me, never wear a broken watch. And trust me, I own a couple of watches. But even if it's the battery that is down, I just pull it out to not mess it up more and leave it there until I'll get time to take it to the hologist, and then we replace the battery. So, but that principle was taught to me by daddy because he was around. If I paint the picture of how I even told the story, you can see a happy family of 4 children in a bedroom with their parents. If I told this story to an illustrator, they will paint a story. They will draw a story. They will illustrate a story. Do you realize there are many people in this day and age that cannot help an illustrator illustrate such an ambience? Because the parents were never around. If they can illustrate stories, they're going to be telling you stories when they are home alone with the maid, mistreating them, or playing with the children, the other children in the neighborhood. But I can at least even tell you this. My parents were around, and Dad taught me that principle. I'm 38 years, and it's like he engraved it on me. I can never forget that. So my friend, let's learn how to engrave these great things into our children. Things like character, principles, and reasoning. Your children are going to be better people in society. Then there's still being around, and there's something that I do not want us to forget before we leave this. Some parents are around, but they forget there's also another very, very fine line between spoiling when they're around. You find some children are horribly spoiled. A child does not have respect, etiquette, or character at all. They step onto the tables with their shoes on. No one can talk to them. They think they're so full of conceit. When you try to advise them, oh my God, they're horrible children. My friend Lucky said she has a friend like that one, but hey, she always, like, when the Lucky's around, the child behaves better. And then I said, how do you do it? He says, I do not tolerate that kind of nonsense. Now, children in the West have been spoiled. Their parents have tried to be around and have spoiled them instead. Now, I'm not advocating for violence, but a flog, reasonable flog, with love, reasonably, these children are going to understand this person does not hate me. They love me. It is me that is doing something that is wrong. It helps a child in a way, psychological way. Just imagine you are driving on a road that is well marked with traffic lights and everything, and you foul, you drive the wrong way. You are entitled to a ticket. And every time a child knows that they're going to be reprimanded for misbehaving, they grow up understanding that life is all about consequences. Live it well, it will smile at you. Foul it, you are going to be reprimanded. Unfortunately, that's the reason why you're finding people today are so emotional. They do wrong things. They do not want to be blamed because they were raised not being told that life is all about consequences. They think, no, don't say that to me. Me, don't say that to me. But you have done something wrong. So the world is supposed to smile at the rubbish that you throw at it? No. That's why you find people, the Americans, going ahead and killing masses of people because they think they're entitled to everything. They were never told when they were growing up that you there's a threshold. You cannot make your own laws. You have to follow the laws of the world. But where do those laws start? From mommy and daddy's rules and laws. That's when they start. If you teach them how to pay heed to those laws, they're going to be able to listen to the laws of the state. Is this rocket science? Is this rocket science? You white folks, I'm not being racist, but you brought the Bible. Do you even read it? It says, spare the rod and spoil the child. Now look at your children. They are killing people. You find someone saying, he just never looked good. I just never liked them and I killed them. Really? Is it supposed to be that way? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great pleasure hosting you here. My name is Ronald Seaman. I would love to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who stuck here and viewed this and watched this. You are the best. And thank you for listening. In case you would love to comment back and give me a thumbs up or whatever, please feel free. Please feel free. Let's reason, my good people. On behalf of my team, my producer Job Mutiaba and my associate producer Mr. Regan Mbabali, I love you so much, and until next time, please be good parents. I understand you have to provide, but hey, you ought to be good parents as well. You've been listening to this great podcast called On the Flip Side. I'm the son of a gun.